The House will be in order. Pursuant to the order of the House of January 9, 2023, the Chair will now recognize members from lists submitted by the majority and minority leaders for the morning hour debate. The Chair will alternate recognition between the parties. All time shall be equally allocated between the parties, and in no event shall debate continue beyond 11:50 a.m. Each member, other than the majority and minority leaders and the minority whip, shall be limited to 5 minutes. The Chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cloud, for 5 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in recognition of the 15th anniversary of the Warriors Weekend Field of Honor. The mission of the Field of Honor has always been to honor our nation's veterans and encourage our wounded warriors. This all began in May 2009 when Warriors Weekend President Ron Koshin, Texas Army National Guard veteran, gave Colonel Mike Petrosh of U.S. Army retired the approval to conduct the first Field of Honor in Victoria, Texas in support of Warriors Weekend. It became an instant success during which 550 sponsored flags were posted by local area sponsors, patriots, and families, touching the hearts of over 300 visiting warriors from all over the United States. In 2011, the Field of Honor expanded its army of volunteers, so to speak, and encouraged faith, civic, veteran, and youth-based organizations to partner with them as a way of raising funds for their own community programs in a way that's honorable and noteworthy. As the field matured and the mission of honoring veterans for their service continued to thrive, it eventually led to the inclusion of the third pillar of Warriors Weekend mission, to build a community of honor and excellence. Throughout the lifetime of the Field of Honor, over 30,000 flags have been sponsored, prepared, and posted in honor of our veterans, wounded soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen who come to Victoria from all 50 states and Puerto Rico to enjoy a weekend of respite from their wound care. Warriors Weekend and the Field of Honor are truly a nationwide ministry that has a positive impact on the thousands of cities and towns across America. The warriors go back and live a more complete, productive lives for themselves, their families, and their communities. On this day, we recognize the service and sacrifice of all those thousands of patriotic servant leaders who have strived for 15 years to honor veterans, encourage warriors, and build a community of honor and excellence. Warriors Weekend Field of Honor has shown this nation what right looks like, and it's through the great work and leadership of volunteers demonstrating a true commitment and honoring those of our United States of America as one nation under God. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Nevada, Ms. Lee, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize a law enforcement hero from Nevada who made the ultimate sacrifice serving our community, Officer Trung Tai. Last October, while responding to a late-night domestic disturbance, Officer Tai was shot and killed at the age of 49, leaving behind his father, brother, 4 sisters, his daughter Jada, and an entire community of law enforcement officers who relied on his mentorship and support. A 23-year veteran of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, Ty's colleagues describe him as someone who could have served in the highest levels of the department as a sergeant or a lieutenant, but instead he chose time and again to serve at all hours of the day and all hours of the night on the front lines of our communities because what he cared about most was keeping people safe. Officer Tai represented the best of our law enforcement, someone willing to put his life on the line for his community, but also a family man who never stopped giving back. He coached girls volleyball and enjoyed playing with his daughter Jada. He went on fishing trips with colleagues and their children, and he never hesitated to help someone in need. We should all be grateful for the service of Officer Tai and inspired by his dedication and generosity as we remember his service. In addition, I'd like to take a moment to honor the sacrifices of far too many other law enforcement officers from Nevada, also lost in the line of duty, including from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, Detective Justin Michael Terry, Officer Edward Aaron Contreras Jr., Sergeant Douglas Michael King, Officer Philip Carl Closey, and from Pahrump Justice Court, Bailiff Gerald Raymond Smith, and Officer Ray Edward East from Walker River. This week, I thank our law enforcement officers for their service and remember those like Officer Ty, whose dedication to his community and family we will never forget. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in celebration of last week's Teacher Appreciation Week to congratulate my constituent and winner of the Clark County School District Teacher of the Year Award, Ms. Dee Hurd. Ms. Hurd is a 6th grade teacher at Sedway Middle School and an innovative leader who's constantly thinking of ways to engage her students outside the textbook. When students struggled after the pandemic, she designed a school-wide math competition complete with pep rallies and digital workspaces to create learning incentives and help students track their progress and goals over time. But Ms. Hurd also leads outside the classroom. She regularly collaborates with school staff to assist with everything from bus tickets to emotional support to food for her students. I could not be more proud to represent teachers like Ms. Hurd and to know that our next generation of leaders is in such great hands. Thank you for all your hard work, Ms. Hurd, and congratulations on your well-deserved honor. And thank you to all the incredible Southern Nevada teachers who deserve our appreciation, not just this week, but every week. Thank you, and I yield the balance of my time.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kansas, Mr. Mann, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud that my House Republican colleagues and I passed H.R. 2, the Secure the Border Act, last week. President Biden's open border policies have created chaos at our southern border and the resulting crime surge and fentanyl crisis. I urge my Senate colleagues to also pass this common sense legislation, which would finish the border wall, add Border Patrol agents, end catch and release, protect children from human trafficking, and stop the fentanyl crisis. The border crisis is getting worse and worse every day. People on the terrorist watch list are being apprehended regularly, and there's no telling how many have snuck in illegally. I've been to the southern border, and what I saw was shocking. I saw human heartbreak, scared children, overcrowded facilities, overwhelmed Border Patrol agents, and evidence of human and drug trafficking being committed by the Mexican cartels. I also saw whole giant sections of the unfinished border wall, with the materials to finish these sections lying in piles in the sun. We need to fix this humanitarian crisis now, and we've done our part in the House to do just that. I just hope that the U.S. Senate and the President will step up to the plate as well. Mr. Speaker, this is National Police Week, and I'm proud to use my voice and my vote in Congress to honor the brave men and women who wear the badge and put their lives on the line to protect all of us. Since President Biden took office, crime rates have skyrocketed. In the last 3 years, the number of officers shot in the line of duty is up 52%. And in major American cities, homicides are up 13%, rapes are up 23%, and aggravated assaults are up 33%. Meanwhile, federal arrests are down 35%. These numbers tell that we need to do a better job supporting our law enforcement officers and ensure that they have the resources they need to do their job. I support law enforcement officers. This week, as a part of my commitment to the Big First, I'm honored to support common sense reforms to issues affecting police, oppose any efforts to defund them, and memorialize law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. I'm going to memorialize 4 of those officers from the great state of Kansas now, who pay the ultimate price while protecting their fellow Kansans. They are David Leroy Ingle from Iola, Stacy Annette Morrow from Lynn County, Robert Price Craft from Marion County, and Sidney Taylor Carter from Sedgwick County. May they rest in peace. I ask everyone to join me in prayer for law enforcement and thanking our local police officers this week for their service. And Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor a great Kansan and member of Kansas State University family, Dr. Marty Vanier, who is receiving the J. Dillingham Award for Agriculture Leadership and Excellence this week. The Agriculture Business Council of Kansas City selected Dr. Vanier as a recipient of this year's award for good reason. She has deep roots in Kansas agriculture, having grown up on her family's ranch where they raise commercial and registered Hereford cattle. She has held several leadership positions in the fields of veterinary pharmaceuticals and food safety, and she is now the director of the National Agriculture Biosecurity Center at K-State. Dr. Vanier received her undergraduate degree from K-State. She began her career in Washington, D.C., serving with the Animal Health Institute in the U.S. Department of Agriculture. In 1987, she returned to K-State and has since worked for the university's Department of Animal Sciences, the Office of Strategic Partnership Development for the National Bio and Agro-Defense Facility, and the K-State National Agriculture Biosecurity Center, which she now directs. Dr. Vanier has the unique ability to bring her diverse experiences to bear as an educator. She's a student, professor, veterinarian, advocate, scientist, and philanthropist all at the same time. Her thoughtful, systematic approach to leadership has made her a favorite in the classroom and among so many others. Congratulations, Dr. Vanier, on this well-deserved award. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Pocan, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans aren't being honest when they tell you they're trying to negotiate in good faith on the nation's debt ceiling. First, this shouldn't be a negotiation. It's paying our bills we've already spent. We've lifted the debt ceiling over 80 times before, including 3 times during President Trump's tenure, because you have to pay your bills. And second, the legislation they passed as an alleged negotiation shows how drastic they would like to cut spending, but can't because they can't even put specifics on paper like the president and the Democrats have. They'd love to cut programs drastically, but the cuts would hurt so many Americans they can't actually do it. That's why they haven't released a budget. Look, I serve on the Appropriations Committee. Let me explain what the Republicans want to do. They passed a bill to cut spending to fiscal year 2022 levels. That sounds innocuous enough, but here's what it actually means: deep cuts. We have discretionary and non-discretionary spending. We can't cut non-discretionary spending like Social Security and Medicare because, well, it's your money that we hold on to as a public trust. So by law, we can't cut non-discretionary spending. That only leaves discretionary funds that can be changed. Now, discretionary funds are eligible for cuts or increases, but the GOP majority further limits that by saying they won't cut Pentagon spending. That amounts to over half of discretionary funds. That leaves a much smaller portion of the total budget to absorb all of the cuts they propose, adding up to a 22% cut of all remaining funds. 22% of the funds that help veterans, 22% of the funds to protect the border, and funds for Meals on Wheels programs, and funds for railroad safety inspections, education, housing, health care, all cut. Think about those levels of cuts and what that effect would have on you and your family. They talk a tough game on the border, but if they cut 22% of the funding going to protect the border, cutting Border Patrol and custom officers could increase the flow of people into the country and cut back on searches for fentanyl and other drugs at our points of entry. They say they want to back the blue and support our police, but 22% cuts to federal law enforcement and grants to local police departments are hardly the support they need. They say they support our veterans, but cut veterans' food assistance programs and housing choice vouchers, hurting tens of thousands of veterans who bravely served. Even the PACT Act that finally made it through Congress to help veterans exposed to toxic chemicals wouldn't get the funding needed to help those who served our nation. But it keeps going. These cuts would affect 180,000 fewer children would have access to child care. 10,800 fewer OSHA inspections of plants would expose workers to unsafe conditions. Drug treatment courts would lose funding and 29,000 fewer people would be able to get treatment for opioid addiction. There's a reason why they can't put out a full budget, because these types of cuts aren't workable. But it's worse. If they do fund some areas, other areas will see even deeper cuts, 30% or more cuts in some of the areas I've just mentioned. And if they don't get these cuts, they won't pay our nation's current bills and will force our nation into default. Look, when you sign a mortgage, you can't decide whether or not you're going to send your monthly check. If you default, you lose your house and your credit is shot. The same is true for the federal government. But you'll also be directly affected by Republican default. Millions of people would lose their jobs. Interest rates for home buyers and small businesses would go up overnight. Stocks would tank, sinking your retirement investments. Congress has to pay its bills like you do, responsibly. And you do that by lifting the debt ceiling now. And if not, well then, Mr. President, invoke parts of the 14th Amendment to pay our bills and not damage the economy. Enough messing around. Get the job done, House Republicans. Your constituents deserve it. I yield back.
Members are reminded to make sure they direct their comments to the chair. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Klein, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, America's law enforcement officers are the best among us. As we celebrate National Police Week this week, I'm proud to join my colleagues and millions of Americans in saying thank you to the brave men and women who wear the badge. Every day, law enforcement officers courageously save innocent lives, stop criminals, and help our communities. Yet tragically, since 1776, more than 26,000 police officers and sheriff's deputies have made the ultimate sacrifice, and in just the last 3 years alone, we've lost 1,397 officers in the line of duty. That is 26,000 too many. Despite the countless sacrifices that our police officers and sheriff's deputies across the nation make every day, the far left has pushed to defund the police for far too long, and our police and sheriff's offices have been under relentless attack. With crime running rampant in communities across our country, defunding and demoralizing our law enforcement has only made communities less safe. Unfortunately, instead of taking action to give law enforcement more resources and support, liberal politicians have doubled down on their soft-on-crime policies that have gotten us into this mess. Despite this, local law enforcement officers in communities across Virginia's 6th District and across our nation go to work every day to protect each and every one of us, and we cannot convey our gratitude enough. This week, House Republicans will be voting on a resolution that expresses our continued support for law enforcement officers and condemns the far left's effort to defund the police. We will also be voting on H.R. 2494, the Police Act, which will make assault on a law enforcement officer by an alien a deportable offense, an important legislation that establishes a program for federal law enforcement officers to purchase retired handguns at fair market value. Mr. Speaker, House Republicans will continue to proudly back the brave men and women who wear the brown and the blue across America. As we honor National Police Week, I urge all of my colleagues to join us in support by passing these bills. Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize the 100th anniversary of Winchester, Virginia's own John Hanley High School, an endowed public school located in the heart of the Shenandoah Valley. The school's funding was launched by an 1895 grant from Judge John Hanley, hence the school mascot, the Judges, because of Hanley's love of the town and its people that grew through his friends and acquaintances, and construction followed beginning in 1922. Despite never having lived in Winchester, Judge Hanley's generosity made it possible for generations of students to enhance their knowledge. More importantly, it created an environment, a culture of support and appreciation for public education. With state-of-the-art facilities, cutting-edge academics, a dedicated athletic program, and an award-winning fine arts program, the John Hanley High School truly sets itself apart. The school was even recently named the most beautiful high school in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Today, under the leadership of Principal Susan Braithwaite, John Hanley High School's thriving active student body and dedicated staff truly embody the meaning of Hanley pride. Congratulations to John Hanley High School and all the students, alumni, teachers, and staff, past and present, on this incredible milestone, and I wish the school another 100 years of success. Mr. Speaker, the greatest threat to America's economy is our debt. Even according to former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Admiral Mike Mullen, the most significant threat to America's security is our national debt. Our financial stability today has spiraled out of control because of President Biden and the Democrats' reckless spending to fund their radical agenda. Now our nation faces an unsustainable $31.7 trillion in debt. Earlier last week, President Biden met with Speaker McCarthy and congressional leadership to discuss legislation to raise the debt ceiling, and to no one's surprise, Biden and Senate Democrats continue to avoid their responsibilities to negotiate. House Republicans have already worked toward a deal by passing a sensible debt ceiling bill that will limit government spending, grow the economy, save taxpayer dollars, and protect vital benefits. We've also done our job to stop the chaos at our southern border by passing H.R. 2, the Secure the Border Act. The security of our border is inextricably linked to the fiscal security of our nation. A recent cost estimate of the Secure the Border Act by Congressional Budget Office confirmed that federal taxpayers are spending tens of billions of dollars on benefits for illegal immigrants like health care, nutrition, and refundable child tax credits due to Biden's current border policies. Taking into account costs at the state and local level, American taxpayers pay $182 billion annually for services and benefits to illegal immigrants. At the end of the day, blank government checks got us into this debt crisis, and a no-strings-attached debt ceiling increase will only serve to push our already fragile economy off the fiscal cliff. It's time to act, and I urge the President to join us at the table. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Virginia, Ms. Spanberger, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I stand here today to thank the men and women who work every day to keep our communities safe and to honor those who have given their lives in service to our communities. As the daughter of a retired career law enforcement officer and as a former federal agent, I know the responsibilities, the pressures, and the stress that can come with putting on the badge. And I stand here today during this National Police Week to honor Virginia's 7th District and the officers who call it home. Across our Commonwealth, we reflect on the service and the sacrifice of our community's law enforcement officers. And as the representative for Virginia's 7th District, it is my great privilege to represent so many public servants, the men and women who have answered the call to serve their fellow Americans, their neighbors, and our communities. This week and every day, we remember their colleagues and friends, those who never returned home. And in their absence, our communities, our Commonwealth, and our country have felt tremendous loss. And today, on the floor of the United States House of Representatives, I'm honored to read the names of fallen officers from Virginia's 7th District. May they never be forgotten, and may their service and their sacrifice inspire their fellow law enforcement officers to continue to serve and protect. From the Prince William County Police Department, Police Officer Ashley Marie Gwindon. Police Officer Chris Young. Police Officer Philip Michael Pennington. Police Officer Paul Thomas Pete White, Jr. From the Prince William County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Sheriff David William Myers, Jr. From the Stafford County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Sheriff Jason Edward Mooney. Deputy Sheriff Ford T. Humphrey. From the Fredericksburg Police Department, Police Officer Todd Allen Barr. Officer William Franklin Mines. Sergeant Roy Glenn Wright. Officer Ellsworth Alexander Moore. From the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office, Captain James Anthony Sisk. Deputy Sheriff George Robert Leelard, Jr. From the King George County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Sheriff Craig Lamont Brooks. From the Caroline County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Sheriff Struther W. Ted Lewis, Sr. From the Greene County Sheriff's Office, Investigator Chadwick Allen Carr. Sergeant Rodney Lee Davis. From the Orange County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff William B. Willie Young. Sheriff Willie C. Bond. From the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Sheriff Brian Marshall Berger. Deputy Sheriff Dean Ridings. Detective Richard Lee Samuels. This week, we remember these officers, these Virginians, these heroes, someone's loved one, fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, children. Their names are not only remembered here in the U.S. Capitol and throughout the halls of Congress, but their sacrifices are honored throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. These officers were dedicated public servants, They were valued, loved ones across our communities, and they represented the best of Virginia. And Mr. Speaker, during National Police Week, I want to thank the public servants who protect the U.S. Capitol every single day, those who stand watch over the very function of our democracy. And I know I stand with my colleagues expressing gratitude and appreciation for the U.S. Capitol Police. On January 6, 2021, their heroism, alongside that of the Metropolitan Police Department, protected members of Congress, Capitol employees, staff, and our very democracy. More than 150 police officers were injured that day, and yet they still stand strong, committed to their duty. As the representative for Virginia's 7th District, I am proud to represent many of the men and women of the U.S. Capitol Police in Congress, and I am committed to making sure that they have the resources, support, financial security, and retirements they deserve and have earned through their selfless sacrifice. It is the least we can do in return for their professionalism, their fervent commitment to duty, their devotion to our country, and their work every day in the halls of Congress. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Clyde, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During National Police Week, we honor our men and women in blue for their courage, dedication, and commitment to preserving law and order in our communities. We also remember the fallen, those who made the ultimate selfless sacrifice in the line of duty. And on this National Police Week, Congress has the unique opportunity to not just say we back the blue, but to actually take a stand against a misguided law that severely hinders the ability of police officers in this very city from protecting and serving the American people. The D.C. City Council's so-called Police Reform Bill, the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Emergency Amendment Act, creates very serious undue burdens on the Metropolitan Police Department. Amidst the raging crime crisis terrorizing the streets here in our nation's capital, this law, which for 2 years has been in effect under emergency legislative powers, this law puts criminals first and MPD officers last. MPD officers overwhelmingly oppose the D.C. Council's anti-police law, and they're making it known with their feet. Since this legislation has been in place, the MPD has lost more than 1,100 officers and currently operates at a 500 officer deficit. And as officers are leaving the force in droves faster than they can be replaced, the Metro Police Department has drastically shrunk to a historic half-century low. Due to my commitment to our Constitution and passion for restoring law and order in our nation's capital, I introduced a resolution, H.J. Res. 42, to repeal the D.C. Council's harmful law. Last month, this body passed my common sense measure by a bipartisan vote, garnering the support of 14 House Democrats. By passing my resolution, the House firmly rejected the Council's anti-police law, reaffirming our support of heroic law enforcement officers, and underscored the importance of protecting American safety here in Washington. But it's now up to the Senate to act before it's too late. Thankfully, today, senators will vote on H.J. Res. 42, as Senator J.D. Vance is leading the fight to repeal the D.C. Council's anti-police law. During this vote, senators will face a very simple question. On National Police Week, do they stand with the officers of the Metropolitan Police Department, or do they embolden violent criminals that continue to torment and attack Americans in our nation's capital? Earlier this year, when Congress was confronted with a similar question, as we considered my previous D.C.-related resolution, H.J. Res. 26, to block the D.C. Council's Soft on Crime Revised Criminal Code Act, we had 31 Democrats in both the House and the Senate join our effort to strike down this radical law that would eliminate minimum sentences and reduce maximum penalties for numerous violent criminal offenses. I now call on these same 31 Democrats, Senate Democrats, to join our fight yet again by passing H.J. Res. 42, because failure to do so will only drive out more MPD officers and deter officers from joining the force, meaning Washington will have fewer police officers on the streets to combat the dangerous crime crisis plaguing our nation's capital. And while D.C.'s local leadership shamelessly refuses to admit there is a crime crisis in Washington, the data reveals that the crime crisis is not only real, but it's getting worse. Compared to last year, violent crime is up 13%, as the city has already faced more than 80 homicides in just the first 4.5 months of 2023. Property crime has increased by a whopping 30%, and total crime overall is up 27%. Clearly, the crime crisis in our nation's capital is dire, which is why residents, small businesses, and visitors, and the brave officers of the Metro Police Department are counting on Congress to act. They're depending on us to use our authority outlined in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution to prevent our nation's capital from becoming the next in New York City, Chicago, or San Francisco. They're calling on us to support MPD officers, help them restore law and order, and improve public safety in Washington. I urge the Senate to put people over politics, join our effort to repeal the D.C. Council's anti-police law, and send this common-sense bill, H.J. Res. 42, to the President's desk. And I implore President Biden to abandon his senseless veto threat so we can take another crucial step in bolstering the ranks of the Metro Police Department and boosting public safety in D.C. We shoulder the responsibility and the authority to make our nation's capital a safer place for all Americans, and we cannot take this duty lightly. It's time for the Senate to take a stand in not only protecting Americans in Washington, but in protecting MPD officers risking their lives to defend law and order in D.C. And on this National Police Week, fulfilling our constitutional duty to strike down a law that will continue to severely damage the Metro Police Department is the least we can do to show that we do, in fact, always back the blue. Thank you, and I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Molinar, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize May as Mental Health Awareness Month. 1 in 6 students are experiencing childhood mental health disorders. Among adults, that number jumps to 1 in 5. Our nation is facing a mental health crisis, and it requires urgent action. For too long, mental health has been a topic that people have been afraid to openly discuss, and it carries with it a stigma that has prevented people from getting the care they need. I know this firsthand. Having been raised by a single mom with undiagnosed depression, I know the challenges that many families face, and while grateful for her love, knew the struggles that she lived with. Talking about mental health isn't simply enough. We must work hard to break down and break through barriers and encourage more people to seek the help they need. That requires us as a nation and as communities to invest more to help ensure anyone who needs mental health treatment can access it. I spent much of the last 12 years as a local elected official building up the most comprehensive community-based mental health model in the country. It is now today the model that New York State uses, and it is critically important that we expand the reach and the ability of individuals to access community-based mental health treatment. In upstate New York, we have incredible providers like Mental Health Association of the Southern Tier. Unfortunately, these providers are stretched thin and face growing demand. They need our help. And that's why we must increase federal commitment for mental health programming, incentivize mental health education to boost the pipeline of qualified practitioners. As we recognize Mental Health Awareness Month, we must increase our commitment to addressing the mental health crisis in our communities. This is an issue that transcends party and politics. And by working together, we can build communities where everyone has the support they need to live out a full, healthy, and fulfilling life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today with many of my colleagues in honor of National Police Week. I join members across this country in recognizing the brave men and women who serve in federal, state, county, and local law enforcement. And I especially want to acknowledge and recognize the men and women of law enforcement throughout upstate New York, county, state, and local men and women who put their lives on the line every day to protect our communities. And sadly, however, they don't get the recognition that they deserve, and appreciation, while well-deserved, is simply not enough. In the state of New York State passed cashless bail reforms that have allowed dangerous criminals to be released and remain in our communities and on our streets, reoffending, creating new victims, undermining law enforcement, diminishing public safety. These laws make it harder and more dangerous to be a law enforcement official, a police officer. And it's no wonder our police officers are leaving the profession in record numbers. Now, here in Congress, we're moving this week to pass bills to show our support and appreciation for law enforcement to prove again that we have their back. Now, we defend those who defend us and vigorously oppose the defund and defame the police movement, not just because it's the right thing to do, because it will further protect our police officers and enhance community safety. Mr. Speaker, we recognize all of those men and women who serve and sacrifice every day, and we are grateful to them and to their families. May they always come home to a family that loves them and a community that supports them. And with that, I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Carl, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in opposition to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife proposal regulating and banning lead, ammo, and fishing tackle from our public lands across this country. So many of us grew up hunting and fishing with our parents, with our grandparents, and our friends. Some of my best memories are with my kids and my grandkids, or when I have taken them hunting and fishing in those quiet moments that we have together, that we can talk about life lessons and we can talk about the things that as families we need to pass on. These generations will cease to exist if we allow this to come into effect by the U.S. Wildlife Agency. In my opinion, enjoying the great outdoors with our friends and our family is one of the most important and special parts of the American dream. Unfortunately, the Biden administration is planning to impose more rules and more regulations, even on our most basic rights. I have huge concerns over these actions. Low-cost lead for ammunition and fishing gear made of lead is commonly used by all of us, and banning them will essentially be the same as putting a no hunting sign on millions of acres of land and kicking people off waterways across this nation. Access to hunting and fishing on public land is important in this country, and we cannot allow the Biden administration to take away these rights because they would rather listen to the far left environmentalist groups than trust the science and leave law-abiding Americans alone. Whether their attempt to ban gas stoves, force expensive electric vehicles on everyone, or tell us what kind of ammunition we can hunt with, or what type of fishing lures we can use, this administration seems determined to chip away at our constitutional rights. Our constitutional rights. Many years ago, I took a hunter safety course from a blind gentleman that could no longer see to hunt and fish, but his way of reliving all of those memories was teaching a hunter safety course. He taught me that you will never control guns because you can make a gun out of virtually anything. The way to control guns by an old gunsmith is living his dreams through his blind eyes is ammunition. Don't think for a second this lead bill is about our wildlife. This bill is about controlling the lead that we use in our guns and not controlling the guns themselves. This man had wisdom. This was 30 years ago. It's just taken him a little while to get to it. What's the next step? Will the next step be banning all lead from being used in hunting? How is that going to limit our hunting? Who's that going to limit that can afford to hunt? This is a slippery slope we don't have to go down. We have to stop it now. We cannot give them the first bite of the apple by saying that we cannot use lead on government property. I can promise you, I will do all I can do to stop this from happening and ensure that this administration can try to do nothing similar to this. And I encourage all American hunting and fishing clubs, whether you are a shooter, a hunter, a fisherman of any type, do something. Speak out. Talk to your legislators. Reach out to the president. Make some phone calls. Let your voice be heard today. Don't wait till after something gets passed, because this proposal will kill our sport as we know it, and we have to fight back. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos, for 5 minutes. Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The U.S. Department of Energy and the FBI have affirmed that the COVID pandemic most likely originated from a leak of the SARS-CoV-2 from a Wuhan Institute of Virology. The deadly COVID virus was unleashed on American soil in 2020, yet it took 3 years and a new majority in Congress to finally start investigating the malign influence of the barbaric Chinese Communist Party. COVID was not the CCP's only flagrant and unsparing attempt to infiltrate American sovereignty. Earlier this year, spy balloons floated along the United States and gathered intelligence from sensitive U.S. military sites. Just last month, 2 CCP spies were arrested and 36 CCP police officers were charged with operating an illegal and secret police station in New York City. The 2 alleged CCP spies only to be quickly granted bail and released from custody. In 2020, leaked CCP member data confirmed that U.S. companies such as Boeing, Qualcomm, and Pfizer had employed dozens of CCP members in their Chinese facilities. Rightfully so, Americans are infiltrated, blaming ivory towers in Washington, D.C. and Wall Street for being slow to punch and handing our fragile dominion over to globalists. We ought to do better. We ought to protect Americans, and we ought to do to preserve democracy. This is why I'm unapologetically pushing back on the CCP and calling on the House Judiciary Committee, the DOJ, and the Select Subcommittee on Weaponization of the Federal Government to investigate the CCP infiltration on the U.S. government and do all they can to free Miles Guo. In 2017, the CCP's most wanted prominent critic, Miles Guo, claimed political asylum in the United States, alleging persecution by the CCP. He has been here for about 6 years, and just last month, Guo was arrested and denied bail for being pronounced a flight risk. In this case, the charges against Miles Guo are simply a part of an organized campaign of political persecution brought against him by the CCP. As a matter of fact, in November of 2018, George Hickenbotham, a senior official at the DOJ, pleaded guilty to his active role in this illegal campaign. He admitted to accepting $41 million from the CCP and meeting with the Vice Minister of Public Security of China to advance the removal of Guo from the United States. It is with great dismay but complete confidence that I say that the weaponization of the United States prosecutorial system is spinning further out of control, and it is time we take a stand. It shows when we have a national crime crisis failing by the wayside because political motivated campaigns designed for nothing other than retribution on political agitators keep getting in the way of our leading law enforcement officials who refuse to prioritize the American people. With each passing year, it is becoming increasingly obvious that the CCP is accomplishing its goal of infiltrating the United States indigenously, and all the while perpetrators, the real threat to the American people, are let out on the streets, and harmless political targets remain behind bars with justice denied. Mr. Speaker, I speak for every American when I say we are done tucking our tails and being at the losing end of every trade-off with the CCP. They take our jobs, use our technology, and steal our intellectual property. And in its turn, we get robbed, spied, and deadly viruses. Enough is enough. Free Miles Guo. I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Alford, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I grew up on AM radio, listening to the news, listening to Dr. Demento, the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, falling asleep at night in my bed listening to that on the weekends. Rush Limbaugh, who not too long ago sat right up there in that gallery, recognized by President Trump. I even interned for the late Larry King. I love AM radio. So I rise today to address an urgent concern that's impacting our nation's heartland and America in general, the decision by some car and truck manufacturers to eliminate, do away with AM radio from their systems, including the F-150, the Ford F-150 that's made in Clay Como near Kansas City, not too far from my district. You see, AM radio is an essential platform for conservative voices like Pete Mundo and Chris Stegall, and listeners who rely on the truth that they hear from AM stations. Stations like KCMO, KRMS, KMMO, KOKO, KDRO, KWTO, and KSGF. AM radio is the lifeblood of information for our farmers and ranchers in particular, providing crucial updates on weather patterns, market shifts, agricultural news. It's also a vital platform for emergency information. Under the Communications Act of 1934, AM radio is there for a reason. It's there to operate in the public interest, and that's exactly what it does. You see, Mr. Speaker, farmers are the backbone of our nation's food security. Yet they operate in some of the most isolated regions, often lacking access to modern high-speed internet or digital services. Did you know, Mr. Speaker, that there are more than 4,000 AM radio stations in the United States, with more than a third dedicated to agricultural programming? That is 1/3 of the stations. That's a big number. This is not a dying medium, Mr. Speaker. It is a vibrant network that connects diverse communities across our nation. We must remind our car manufacturers to consider the wider impact of their decisions. Let's make sure that conservative voices are protected. Let's make sure that emergency communications are protected as well for our farmers and ranchers in particular. And let's make sure our rural communities, our farmers and ranchers, the unsung heroes of our nation, remain connected, remain informed, and remain respected. Mr. Speaker, in the 1980s, I remember when MTV first came on and the little jingle, "I want my MTV." Well, Mr. Speaker, it is 2023, and I want my AM radio. Thank you. I yield back.
Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the Chair declares the House in recess until noon today.
The House will be in order. The prayer will be offered by Chaplain Kibben.
Would you pray with me? Almighty God, you, O Lord, are our strength and our shield. In you do we find trust and find our refuge. In protecting us against threats of harm, defending us in the face of danger, you have set among us brave men and women who have taken up the shield of service. This National Police Week, hear our prayers of gratitude for their commitment to uphold and defend the peace in our communities, our country, and the Capitol. Remind us, O Lord, that the security they so dutifully provide comes at considerable personal cost to them. The long hours and relentless pressure to stand yet another extra watch steal precious time away from their loved ones. Their commitment to providing unwavering protection for those in their charge has too often demanded of them the ultimate measure of their sacrifice. For these countless acts of dedication, their selfless service, and their heroism, for the 556 men and women whose names were added to the Law Enforcement Memorial this year, and for all who have gone above and beyond, paying the final price in their efforts to safeguard the citizens of our nation, we pray your blessing be upon their families, and we pray your assurance that their deaths will not be in vain. Bless the righteous, O Lord, and cover them with their favor. In the strength of your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. The chair has examined the journal of last day's proceedings and announces to the House the approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the gentleman from Idaho, Mr. Fulcher.
Please join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair will receive a message.
Mr. Speaker, messages from the President of the United States of America.
Mr. Speaker,
Madam Secretary,
I am directed by the President of the United States to deliver to the House of Representatives messages in writing.
the chair will entertain up to 15 requests for 1-minute speeches on each side of the aisle. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, this week is National Police Week, a time to thank our brave men and women in law enforcement and honor those who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Police departments in small communities, like many in the Central Valley, struggle to have enough funding to recruit, train, and provide resources for their officers. As I meet with law enforcement across my district, I hear firsthand just how much stress is being placed on these officers, who are consistently being asked to do more with less resources. Despite all of this, our police officers still wake up each morning, put their uniforms on, and go into our communities to uphold their oath to protect and serve, knowing very well that they may not come home that night. It is critical that we continue to fully fund our law enforcement and ensure they have the resources they need to keep themselves and our community safe. And I want to thank all of our police officers and law enforcement, both in the Central Valley and across the country, for their selfless dedication to service and keeping our community safe. Thank you, Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition? Without objections, the gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, one of the major reasons people get readmitted to the hospital is what's in their cabinet at home, or more notably, what isn't. A poor diet combined with conditions like heart disease and diabetes contributes to a staggering number of hospital readmissions every day. Finally, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is providing greater flexibility for those using and paying for medically tailored meals. For those too sick to cook, these prepared and delivered medically tailored meals often make all the difference. It's been a long road to get here. I've introduced legislation on this, launched a Food is Medicine working group, and uplifted organizations across America who prepared these meals. We still need to push for medically tailored meals to be covered, to be a covered Medicare benefit. But this is great news, one of the many transformative changes stemming from last year's White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health. It will make opening the pantry less painful for our neighbors, and it will help end hunger now. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Idaho seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In approximately 2 weeks, our country will hit its debt ceiling.
House Republicans understand that this would be disastrous for our already fragile economy. That's why we took decisive action to address the crisis responsibly and sensibly by passing the Limit, Save, and Grow Act. This legislation would not only end the debt limit crisis, but it would also address the root cause of that crisis, Washington's irresponsible spending. Since President Biden took office, the 10-year trajectory on federal spending has increased by a staggering $10 trillion. While House Republicans have been hard at work crafting solutions to the debt ceiling, this administration and House Democrats have wasted valuable time putting our nation's financial stability at risk. 2 weeks ago, the White House press secretary flatly said the president is not going to negotiate on the debt ceiling. That's critical time that could have been spent on negotiations, not political stunts. And to make matters worse, President Biden is now leaving for an 8-day trip to Asia as our country teeters on the brink of default. It's time for our other side to stop playing politics. We're out of time. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor the life of one of New Jersey's finest, Deptford Township Officer Robert Bobby Schisler, who died last week after being shot in the line of duty in March. He was just 27 years old. Born and raised in Deptford, Officer Schisler dedicated his life to serving and protecting his community. He served Deptford with honor, integrity, and he made South Jersey a better, safer place for all of us. We must never forget the ultimate sacrifice made by the officer and all those who wear uniform who protect us. We will always remember the Officer Schisler for the hero that he is. I am keeping his family, his friends, his fellow law enforcement officers, and the entire Deptford community in my thoughts and prayers. May he rest in peace. I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose the gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, asking consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Veteran suicide is a tragedy that claims far too many of America's heroes. We lost 6,146 veterans that we know of from suicide in 2020 alone. That's about 3 times as many soldiers as we lost in Afghanistan from hostile action. This is tragic, but any veterans listening should know that America is in your corner. On May 6th, I had the opportunity to join the Patriots of Save 22 for a veteran suicide awareness hike in Massillon, Ohio. Similar events will happen across the country. Go to one to let our heroes know that they matter. Veterans in crisis may call 988, then press 1 if they need immediate support. To our heroes listening, please know that we are here for you and that we will never forget your service and sacrifice to our nation. God bless you. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. They're both from Minnesota? Yeah. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Minnesota seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, by the direction of the Committee on Rules, I call up House Resolution 398 and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Calendar Number 19, House Resolution 398. Resolve that at any time after adoption of this resolution, the Speaker may, pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 18, declare the House resolved into the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for consideration of the bill, H.R. 2494, to make the assault of law enforcement officer a deportable offense and for other purposes. The first reading of the bill shall be dispensed with. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. General debate shall be confined to the bill and shall not exceed 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on the Judiciary or their respective designees. After general debate, the bill shall be considered for amendment under the 5-minute rule. In lieu of the amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on Judiciary, now printed in the bill, it shall be in order to consider as an original bill for the purpose of amendment under the 5-minute rule, an amendment in the nature of a substitute consisting of the text of Rules Committee Print 118-4. That amendment in the nature of a substitute shall be considered as read. All points of order against that amendment in the nature of a substitute are waived. No amendment to that amendment in the nature of a substitute shall be in order, except those printed in Part A of the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution. Each such amendment may be offered only in the order printed in the report, may be offered only by a member designated in the report, shall be considered as read, shall be debatable for the time specified in the report, equally divided and controlled by the proponent and an opponent, shall not be subject to amendment, and shall not be subject to demand for division of the question, in the House or in the Committee of the Whole. All points of order against such amendments are waived. At the conclusion of consideration of the bill for amendment, the committee shall rise and report the bill to the House with such amendments as may have been adopted. Any member may demand a separate vote in the House or on any amendment adopted in the Committee of the Whole to the bill or to the amendment in the nature of a substitute made in order as original text. The previous question shall be considered as order on the bill and amendments thereto to final passage without intervening motion except one motion to recommit. Section 2, at any time after adoption of this resolution, the Speaker may, pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 18, declare the House resolved into the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for consideration of the bill, H.R. 3091, to allow federal law enforcement officers to purchase retired service weapons and for other purposes. The first reading of the bill shall be dispensed with. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. General debate should be confined to the bill and shall not exceed 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on the Judiciary or their respective designees. After general debate, the bill shall be considered for amendment under the 5-minute rule. In lieu of the amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on the Judiciary, now printed in the bill, it shall be in order to consider as an original bill for the purpose of amendment under the 5-minute rule, an amendment in the nature of a substitute consisting of the text of Rules Committee Print 118-5. That amendment in the nature of a substitute shall be considered as read. All points of order against that amendment in the nature of a substitute are waived. No amendment to that amendment in the nature of a substitute shall be in order except those printed in Part B of the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution. Each such amendment may be offered only in the order printed in the report, may be offered only by a member designated in the report, shall be considered as read, shall be debatable for the time specified in the report, equally divided and controlled by the proponent and opponent, shall not be subject to amendment, and shall not be subject to a demand for division of the question, in the House or in the Committee of the Whole. All points of order against such amendments are waived. At the conclusion of consideration of the bill for amendment under the amendment, the committee shall rise and report to the House the bill with such amendments as may have been adopted. Any member may demand a separate vote in the House on any amendment adopted in the Committee of the Whole to the bill or to the amendment in the nature of a substitute made in order as original text. The previous question shall be considered as order on the bill and amendments thereto to final passage without intervening motion except one motion to recommit. Section 3, upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House the concurrent resolution, House Concurrent Resolution 40, expressing support for local law enforcement officers and condemning efforts to defund or dismantle local law enforcement agencies. All points of order against consideration of the concurrent resolution are waived. The concurrent resolution shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions in the concurrent resolution are waived. The previous question shall be considered as order on the concurrent resolution and preamble, and on any amendment thereto to adoption without intervening motion or demand for division of the question except one. 1 hour of debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on the Judiciary or their respective designees. And 2, the amendment printed in Part C of the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution if offered by the member designated in the report, which shall be in order without intervention of any point of order, shall be considered as read, shall be separately debatable for the time specified in the report, equally divided and controlled by the proponent and an opponent, and shall not be subject to a demand for division of the question.
The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized for 1 hour.
Mr. Speaker, for the purposes of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the gentleman from Massachusetts, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume. During consideration of this resolution, and all yielded time is for purpose of debate only. I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are here to debate the rule providing for consideration of H.R. 2494, the Protect Our Law Enforcement with Immigration Control and Enforcement, or the Police Act, H.R. 3091. The Federal Law Enforcement Officer Service Weapon Purchase Act and H.Con. Res. 40, expressing support for law enforcement officers and condemning efforts to defund or dismantle local law enforcement agencies. It provides for structured rules for all 3 bills and makes in order Democrat as well as Republican amendments. Given all that our police officers do for our community each and every day, I am honored to stand here in defense of this legislation to support them. According to the FBI, assaults on law enforcement officers increased by 11.2% from 2020 to 2021. Many of these violent crimes have been committed by illegal aliens. As this administration continues to let the crisis at the border spiral out of control, these types of assault will continue to increase. There are things we can do to deter criminal assaults and protect our officers. The Police Act would amend the Immigration and Nationality Act to clearly state that the assault of a law enforcement officer is a deportable offense. If those who have been given the privilege of coming here cannot respect our laws or those who enforce them, they should not enjoy the benefit of remaining in our country. The second bill under consideration today, H.R. 3091, would allow law enforcement officers to buy retired and surplus military service weapons at fair market value so long as the officer is in good standing with their employed agency. Under current law, federal law enforcement agencies are required to destroy retired and unneeded firearms. The Fraternal Order of Police estimates that this wastes up to $8 million a year. This bill is a common sense solution to save taxpayer dollars and support law enforcement officers. And finally, H.Con. Res. 40 expresses Congress's support for local law enforcement officers and condemns efforts to defund or dismantle local law enforcement agencies. Unfortunately, because there are people out there, even some serving in Congress, that want to defund the police and want to continue the anti-law enforcement rhetoric, this bill is necessary. In a time where police officers are regularly attacked for their profession, 2021 being the deadliest year in 2 decades for law enforcement officers, according to the FBI, it can never be stated enough that the U.S. Congress supports this country's police officers. The brave men and women across this nation who risk their lives every day need to know that we condemn any efforts to defund them and we support them. They need to know that we stand with them and are here to do everything in our power to protect them in the way they protect and serve our communities. That is why I encourage my colleagues to stand with me and support these pieces of legislation. I reserve, Mr. Speaker.
The gentlewoman from Minnesota reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the gentlelady from Minnesota for yielding me the customary 30 minutes, and I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I want to begin today with a story. Once upon a time in Congress, House Republicans put forward their top agenda, a package of bills so crucial, so urgent, that teeing them up for consideration was one of the very first things we did on the floor of this Congress. After, of course, Kevin McCarthy's 15 votes for Speaker. And tucked into this package was a little bill about supporting the police, House Continuing Resolution 5. A simple, non-binding resolution, really. It didn't do much. It was purely symbolic, but it did express support for our nation's police, all our nation's police. But something mysterious happened, Mr. Speaker, and I hope you will join me in trying to solve that mystery today. Because instead of bringing their bill up right away, Republicans waited, and they waited, and they waited, and they waited until this week. And they brought up a bill, but something changed. See, in the original bill, the language read that Congress expresses support for the nation's law enforcement agencies. And as you can see, Mr. Speaker, nations, it was about all our police. But in their new bill, the one that we're considering today, they only express support for local enforcement officers. And here's the new bill, Mr. Speaker, and we see the word local, nothing about our nation's law enforcement officers, just local. That's weird. What a strange change. It's National Police Week, but they took out all of our national police agencies. Democrats searched and searched and searched for a reason. We looked high and low in the Rules Committee, but we couldn't find an answer. Not a single person, not one Republican, Mr. Speaker, has been able to articulate to us who made that change, or when it was made, or most importantly, why it was made. No one was able to explain to us why Republicans edited their bill from saying any efforts to defund or dismantle law enforcement agencies to any efforts to defund or dismantle local law enforcement agencies. And here's the important thing, and call it the moral of the story, if you will. The change was not without consequence, because what the GOP did was cut out every officer at the FBI, the ATF, CBP, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the Federal Protective Service, and the Secret Service. And they cut out every officer at the United States Capitol Police. They cut out the police who are standing outside these chamber doors right now, keeping us safe. And they cut out all the police who rushed to this building to keep all of my GOP friends safe on January 6, 2021. Apparently, our Republican colleagues think National Police Week shouldn't include our national police. And I wish I could say that this was an unsolved mystery. I really do. But the answer is obvious, Mr. Speaker. The new Republican position is that they only support some police. The new Republican position as of 2 weeks ago is that they wanted to fund police. They voted to cut cops grants, fire 400 local police officers, defund the FBI, and cut grant funding for state and local law enforcement agencies. The new Republican position, as put forward by their frontrunner for president, is that we ought to pardon the convicted criminals, white supremacists, and neo-Nazis who beat cops, crushed them indoors, and hit them with fire extinguishers on January 6th. And the new Republican position is to give George Santos due process before he's kicked out, but to deport legal immigrants who haven't even been charged with a crime. So here's what I see today, Mr. Speaker. It seems like Republicans backed the blue until they realized that laws apply to them too. And that gets me to my final point, because an important change is happening here today, and I want law enforcement officers across this country to take note. I know many of them are watching because it's Police Week, National Police Week. And here's what I want them to know. Democrats want to keep communities safe. Democrats want to address gun violence in our schools, an issue I hear from police officers about all the time. Democrats want to invest in programs that keep our communities safe, programs that get to the root causes of crime. Democrats want to make sure police aren't put in situations they aren't trained to handle. Democrats have passed bills that protect our communities and support our police, bills to help cops with PTSD and to invest in small police departments. And Republicans want to wrap their arms around the police while they cut funding. And make sure we don't forget this, Mr. Speaker. 21 Republicans voted against awarding the Congressional Gold Medal to the Capitol Police. 21. Republicans changed their bill to deliberately exclude America's national police agencies from National Police Week, which dishonors and disrespects the Capitol Police officers who protect our Capitol building. And Republicans are using our law enforcement officers like political pawns. They're putting politics over public safety. It is clear, Mr. Speaker, that my Republican friends have lost their way on law enforcement today. And it's clear who's in charge. It's not Speaker McCarthy. It's the most extreme of the extreme. And once again, the American people lose. With that, I reserve my time.
Massachusetts reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would urge all of my colleagues not to make excuses about this legislation, not to talk about it doesn't have this, it has this, or you change this, because they're playing word games. And the public is watching, and law enforcement officers are watching. Today, with your yes vote on this legislation, you can show your support for law enforcement. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to yield 3 minutes to the representative from Pennsylvania.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my good friend and fellow Rules Committee member, Representative Fischbach, for the time. Quick history lesson. June 2020, Vice President Kamala Harris applauded former LA Mayor Eric Garcia's decision to slash police funding by $150 million. Representative Ocasio-Cortez has stated, and I quote, "Defunding the police means defunding the police." Exact quote. Representative Cori Bush has said that she would, quote unquote, make sure she has private security for her protection while simultaneously promising to defund the police that protect you. Representative Tlaib has said, and I quote, "No more policing, incarceration, and militarization," end quote. Representative Omar has stated, and I quote, "Not only do we need to defund, we need to dismantle police departments." And what's been the result? What's been the result of these attacks on law enforcement? Well, 2021 was the deadliest year in 2 decades for our law enforcement officers. 64 officers were shot and killed in the line of duty in 2022. Just to put that in perspective, that's a 40% increase from 2020. At least 9 cities, the vast majority of which are Democrat-controlled cities, these cities saw record homicides last year, skyrocketing crime that continues to plague our communities all across the country. Right here in DC, for example, we're already seeing a 13% rise in violent crime in 2023 compared with 2022, when crime was already at near historic levels. This is because Democrats are now trying to deflect responsibility for this rise in crime, but it's their own far left radical policies that are to blame. It's essential that we make it clear that Congress, at least this Republican majority, condemns all efforts to dismantle and defund our nation's police officers. For those reasons, I urge my colleagues to support this rule and support the underlying piece of legislation, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
Reserve.
The gentlewoman from Minnesota reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to yield to the gentlelady from Minnesota if she could respond to a question that we couldn't get an answer to in the Rules Committee last night as to why the Republicans did not bring up their original bill, HCON Res 5, the one that they made in order with their opening day rules package. I don't know whether she can explain to me. I'm happy to yield her some time to. I mean, the silence is deafening, Mr. Speaker. I mean, because the question that we asked in the Rules Committee last night that nobody could answer is, in their original bill, we honored our entire nation's law enforcement, including the Capitol Police, who protected us on January 6th. And then the bill they're bringing up today changed all that. And basically narrowed it down to local police, but took out any recognition of our Capitol Police or any of our federal law enforcement officers. And the gentlelady will not answer the question. Nobody in the Rules Committee would answer the question. And to the gentleman from Pennsylvania who just spoke, who's talking about defunding the police, I will tell you, I was the chairman of the Rules Committee. We didn't bring any resolutions to the floor to defund the police. 2 weeks ago, my Republican friends voted to cut money for local law enforcement and for our federal law enforcement agencies. They're the ones who voted to defund the police. That was just, don't believe me, you can Google it, check it out. 2 weeks ago, their bill that they brought to the floor would cut law enforcement agencies. So give me a break, Mr. Speaker. Again, the idea that my Republican friends made a conscious decision to remove the Capitol Police from a resolution honoring our nation's police is beyond the pale. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record a letter from the Department of Justice regarding the cuts proposed within the Republicans' debt limit bill. And my Republican friends are actively cutting funding from federal law enforcement that work to protect us every day. And their plan would also cut funding for nearly 400 local law enforcement positions. I mean, Republicans cannot be serious about supporting law enforcement when they are actively using their majority to defund them. So, Mr. Speaker, at this time, I will reserve my time.
Nice.
And Mr. Speaker, I have to mention again, we have legislation in front of us that will honor our law enforcement officers. And when we go off on tangents and talk about words and what's there, what's not there, the simple fact is a yes vote on this legislation will show our support for law enforcement. And with that, I would like to yield 3 minutes to the representative from Indiana.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This National Police Week is a special one for me as a new member of Congress. I promise to always protect our police officers, just as they protect our communities back home. Regardless of which side of the aisle you're on that we should all agree. It's important that the American people see us supporting law enforcement as we debate a vote on this week's police bills and throughout the 118th Congress. The legislation provided for in this rule are common sense measures, including allowing law enforcement officers to purchase retiring service weapons, making assaulting a law enforcement officer a deportable offense, and stating clearly that we appreciate the dedication of the men and women of law enforcement. There's no better message than showing our officers we're behind you. I know law enforcement officers in southern Indiana and across the state who are listening right now and would appreciate it. I'm in awe of the incredible work they do to keep us safe as they agree to take the oath to protect and serve, knowing that does not guarantee them a safe return to their family at the end of the day. I saw the true weight of this when I visited the National Law Enforcement Memorial last Thursday. The memorial displayed name after name after name of those who didn't return home. Too many names. One of those names of fallen officers was Officer Benton Bertram from Charleston, Indiana. To see his name surrounded by so many selfless, brave heroes puts it in perspective. They didn't run from danger, they ran toward it. With unwavering gratitude, we won't forget their sacrifice. This is just the start of why it's so important we act this week on the House floor. As an Indiana State Senator, I fought for and secured a pay raise for our state police officers. Many of them thanked me. I always responded, it was the least we could do for their service. I will continue to take advantage of every opportunity to support the police and all law enforcement officers, and will actively seek out opportunities to work with anyone willing to provide our officers with the resources and the support they deserve. To the police officers in southern Indiana, here's my message to you. Know you always have a fighter for you here on the House floor, in House committee rooms, and here in Congress. Thank you. God bless our men and women in blue. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back.
Reserve.
The gentlewoman from Minnesota reserves. The
Mr. Speaker, the gentlelady from Indiana began her remarks by talking about National Police Week, but the resolution doesn't honor our national police. The Republicans made a conscious decision to remove the Capitol Police, FBI, ATF, CBP, U.S. Marshal Service, Federal Bureau of Prisons, the Federal Protective Service, and the Secret Service. I'm happy to yield to the gentlelady from Indiana to help me understand why did the Republicans change the wording of their resolution. I'm happy to yield her any time. Again, I mean, the gentlelady from Minnesota says we're playing word games. No, we're not. The only people playing word games are my Republican friends. They introduced a bill that honored all of our police, and then they changed it. They made a conscious decision to change it because I think they're afraid of the extreme of their base that somehow don't want to admit that anything bad happened here on January 6th. And they're afraid if they honor the Capitol Police that somehow their extreme base would be offended. That's just sick, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to urge that we defeat the previous question. And if we do, I will offer an amendment to the rule for consideration of a resolution which states that it is the House's responsibility to protect and preserve Social Security and Medicare for future generations and reject any cuts to these essential programs. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert the text of my amendment into the record along with any extraneous material immediately prior to the vote on the previous question.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, Social Security and Medicare are vital to many of our constituents' economic health security, and yet many of my Republican friends across the aisle have called for major cuts of these critical programs. So once again, I'm offering my friends the opportunity to reassure the American people, not just with rhetoric, but with their votes, that they will not cut these vital programs. And to discuss our proposal, I yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you so much, Ranking Member McGovern. Mr. Speaker, our residents sent us to Congress to tackle the issues that are affecting every American's ability to thrive. They did not send us here to waste valuable time on messaging bills that are dead on arrival in the Senate and do nothing to improve the lives of working families. We are weeks, possibly days, away from Republicans hurtling our economy towards a devastating default on our debt for the first time in our nation's history. And Republicans are heartlessly using the crisis as an opportunity to try to force cruel cuts to the social safety nets for our communities, especially our veterans who depend on health care. Republicans are putting vital public programs like Social Security and Medicare at risk by playing petty political games to appease their billionaire donors and harm the lives and livelihoods of the American people. Defaulting on our debt, Mr. Speaker, would be devastating, if not catastrophic, for all those relying on Social Security, as you know, and Medicare in all of our districts. Social Security recipients would no longer receive checks, risking their ability to pay for groceries, rent, and utilities. This is exactly the type of chaos many of my Republican colleagues want to see happen, but Democrats are fully committed to protecting and expanding Social Security. Social Security is the bedrock of our social safety net and the pillar for all of our neighbors relying on, again, to be able to retire with dignity. Unfortunately, as cost of things like health care, caregiving, and prescription drugs has skyrocketed due to the unchecked corporate greed in our country, our seniors have to come and rely even more on Social Security every single day. Mr. Speaker, now more than ever before is the time to strengthen Social Security. If we defeat the previous question, we will bring to the House floor HRES 178, a resolution affirming the House's commitment to protect and strengthen Social Security and Medicare. Republicans need to stop wasting our time and playing games with the lives of our people. I urge my colleagues to defeat the previous question so we can advance this important legislation, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have a much easier way for the other side to deal with the debt ceiling that maybe instead of the procedural antics we're going through is maybe what they should do is encourage the President and the Senate leaders to get to the table and negotiate. The House Republicans did their job. We passed a debt ceiling with spending cuts and an increase off of this floor. We have done our job. But I think the real message here is National Police Week. That's what we're talking about. We are talking about the support and respect for our law enforcement officers. And I just want to maybe bring it back to what we're really talking about. I unfortunately have had the unfortunate honor to have three officers lost in the line of duty in my area. And so I would remember those names: Officer Brian Kleinfelter, Officer Tommy Decker, and Officer Josh Owen. And Officer Owen was just a few weeks ago. We also yesterday had here in the Capitol Officer Eric Matson, who was shot 3 years ago in the line of duty and survived. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the officers that we're honoring. And I would like to yield 2 minutes to the representative from New York.
The gentleman from New York is ready.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very grateful to my colleague from Minnesota for yielding the time. I rise in support of the rule which provides consideration of important bills to support our nation's law enforcement officers. This legislation comes at a critical moment when those on the front lines in our communities are being attacked, maligned, and stripped of the resources they need to keep us safe. Mr. Speaker, time and again, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they claim that the phrase "defund the police" is a slogan of a very small and rogue minority that doesn't reflect their party's broader values. Democrats said that even as cities across this country burned in the summer of 2020 to the deafening chant of "defund the police." But let's take a look at the facts. Since 2021, 25 cities across America defunded their police departments by upwards of $2 billion. Police department budgets were slashed in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Chicago, San Francisco, Austin, and even in my home state of New York, New York City. What do all these cities have in common? They have Democrat mayors, Democrat city councils, Democrat monopolies on all of the levers of power. New York City is seeing felony crime skyrocket to levels not seen in 15 years after its Democrat mayor and Democrat-dominated city council embraced the destructive ideals of the defund the police movement. Now, last year, the city saw a 22.4% jump in serious offense like felony assault, rape, burglary, robberies, and grand larceny. So let's call it what it is. Defunding the police is not a fringe idea. It's a movement at the heart of the Democratic Party, and it's in practice right now. And if my colleagues on the other side of the aisle truly believe that it is a fringe idea, then I look forward to strong bipartisan support for this important pro-law enforcement legislation this week. Let's show our men and women in blue, the ones on the front lines of our community, of every community, that they aren't alone and we have their backs. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yield back. The gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Well, let me just say to the gentleman, again, the only people who in this chamber voted to defund the police are my Republican friends. 2 weeks ago, you all voted for a bill to cut money for local law enforcement. Every one of you. And let's talk about the police that you're not honoring here today. You know, 2 FBI agents were shot and killed last week. And yet they have been taken off the list of law enforcement officials that we are honoring. You know, I also, Mr. Speaker, ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the names of the law enforcement officers who died as a result of the Capitol riots. U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, U.S. Capitol Police Officer Howard Liebengood, D.C. Police Officer Jeffrey Smith, D.C. Police Officer Gunther Hishida, D.C. Police Officer Kyle DeFreitag. And I'm also asking unanimous consent to insert in the record a CNN story about the 21 Republicans who voted no on a bill to award Congressional Gold medals for the January 6th police officers. And again, I'm happy to yield to the gentleman.
Without objection.
Happy to yield to the gentleman from New York whatever time he needs. I guess he left the floor, but I would like somebody to explain to me why Republicans decided to change the wording of the bill that they introduced at the opening day session of Congress to exclude all of our federal police officers and exclude our Capitol Hill police. I don't quite understand why they did that, except I think they're afraid of their base, their extreme element of their base, who basically do not want to honor them. And I find that really disturbing. Again, so we're talking about defunding the police. The only people in this chamber that voted to cut money for the police are on the other side of the aisle, Mr. Speaker. And with that, I reserve my time.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the representative from South Carolina.
The gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
It's an honor to speak for you today in honor of our police force. What better time to honor the brave men and women who are our family? They don't do it for the money. They do it because of service. And folks, what you're hearing from the other side is just not true. They are the party of defunding the police. Their own vice president put up bond money for rioters. I can name you, and I'm not going to name them by name. You've got 5 sitting Congress people whose statements, defunding police means defunding police. Efforts to defund the police department. No more police. They're the party of defunding the police. And what better time to celebrate the fact that men and women are willing to do this. They see things we don't see. They go places we don't go. And to have 135 officers shot in 23 is unacceptable. To have 15 officers killed by gunfire, 43 officers shot in an ambush-style attack. The amount of officers shot in the line of duty is up 52% from this time in 2020. And I just, words are cheap, but it's what we as a party are doing to support the police. The statistics are outrageous. I look forward to considering legislation that supports our police officers and condemns the leftist efforts to dismantle local law enforcement agencies, which they do. To all those in law enforcement, thank you. For those who are willing to go through good times and bad times to protect us, thank you. And God bless every police officer in this country. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlewoman from Minnesota reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, what the gentleman who just spoke neglected to say was that he only wants to honor some of our police officers, that they made a conscious decision to, quite frankly, remove our national police, our Capitol Police, from the resolution that they were originally included in. And he said, don't believe us. Well, the words are here. This is the original bill, H-Con Res 5, expressing support for the nation's law enforcement, the nation's law enforcement officers. And their new bill was changed to just say local law enforcement. They made a conscious decision to do that. And the gentleman keeps on quoting us. There's an old saying that the only thing that really matters around here is votes. Everything else is BS. And so we can play this game of quotes versus votes, but the bottom line is the votes are what mattered and what matters the most. And my friends on the other side of the aisle 2 weeks ago brought a bill that they all voted for that cut money for law enforcement at every level. They voted for that. So that's their record. And I hope my friends will appreciate that. So as we honor our nation's police officers, as we should, I have to say it is disappointing that we're only honoring some, that a conscious, deliberate decision was made to exclude others. And I find that really, really disturbing. And quite frankly, we tried to fix it last night in the Rules Committee. They tried to fix it in the Judiciary Committee, and all the Republicans voted it down. So I urge people to look at the votes. The votes are what matters. I reserve my time.
Gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
How many? Mr. Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Texas.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the Speaker. Quote, "It wasn't an accident. Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Daunte Wright was met with aggression and violence. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed." Thus said Congresswoman Tlaib, who was just down here talking about this. Congressman Omar, you can't really reform a department that is rotten to the root. That is the truth of what my colleagues on the other side of the aisle think about law enforcement. The gentleman from Massachusetts is down here besmirching the 21 members of our body who said no to the politicization of Capitol Police. You want to know why it's not in here? Because my colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to turn Capitol Police into political pawns. That's the truth. We had a resolution in the last Congress, H.R. 1085. I voted for it, giving a congressional gold medal to the brave men and women of Capitol Police who stood here on January 6th. But then my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they didn't want to leave it there. They then had another resolution a mere 2 months later when they wanted to play politics. They're playing political games. Instead of honoring our men and women in law enforcement, Democrats played political games on a different tragedy, April 2nd, 2021, when Officer Billy Evans was killed and Officer Kenneth Shaver was injured by a man obsessed with the Nation of Islam, who slammed his vehicle into the north barricade of the U.S. Capitol complex. That didn't fit the narrative. That didn't fit the narrative of my Democratic colleagues. See, they want to be able to come down here and make claims that they're defunding the police, that we are, because we dare to stand up and say we should have fiscal responsibility and set a top-line cap. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to besmirch Republicans for cutting out all manners of programs. But they bring no solutions for the American people about ending the $32 trillion of debt, destroying the dollar, causing inflation, undermining jobs, destroying our country. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it on purpose. But we're going to stand with the men and women of blue across this country. That's what this resolution is about. It's about standing with them, and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle spent every waking moment undermining them, saying we should defund them when there were riots on the streets and our cities were burning to the ground. My Democratic colleagues didn't care. They allowed it to happen. They knew exactly what they were doing, and that's what this is about. I would add this. My father carries a card around with him. He's 80 years old. That card was given to him by his father, a chief of police of a small West Texas town. It's called Jackie, the son of a hard-boiled cop. You think I'm a hard-boiled copper for writing a mere 43. Well, perhaps I'm thinking of Jackie and all that he meant to me. How's that? Tell you all about it. Well, stranger, the boy was my son.
Gentleman's time has expired.
I yield 30 seconds.
30 seconds to the...
God, what I'd give to hear Daddy once more when the day's work is done. The driver was just in a hurry. He didn't intend any harm. But the sun and stars quit shining when I picked up my boy's lifeless form. Well, mister, I'll tear up this ticket. I don't want to pinch anyone, but I'd ride this motor through hellfires to protect another man's son. So the next time you feel like speeding or passing a boulevard stop, just pause and remember my Jackie, the son of a hard-boiled cop. My dad carries it with him to this day, 80 years old. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to play politics with cops. They can do it on somebody else's dime. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentlewoman from Minnesota reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the gentleman runs out, I could just say that yelling, you can yell all you want, but it doesn't change the fact that my friends on the other side of the aisle, including the gentleman, voted to cut money for local law enforcement. And Mr. Speaker, I'd like order. Mr. Speaker, what they did is they voted to cut $1 million per state in federal money for our local law enforcement. They would lay off 400 local police officers. That is what would happen if their bill that they voted on 2 weeks ago became law. It would cut cops grants. It would cut other DOJ funding for our local police. And the gentleman who just had a meltdown on the floor, screaming and yelling, comes on the floor all the time to talk about about our border. I mean, my Republican friends made a conscious decision to remove Customs and Border Patrol from the bill honoring our law enforcement. I would like somebody to answer why. They removed the Capitol Police, they removed the FBI, but they also removed CBP. Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, their bill, this is according to the Department of Justice, if it became a law, the reduction in support for our police and federal law enforcement would result in a reductions in our operations equivalent to the following: 154,000 pounds of cocaine not seized, 859 pounds of fentanyl, and 1,948 pounds of heroin not seized, 17,148 pounds of methamphetamine not seized, $9 million in currency not seized, 561 criminals not arrested, and 57,594 apprehensions not made, 361 people not rescued. And the gentleman says he's being fiscally responsible, and that is why they voted for these cuts? Enough. Again, can somebody please explain to me The party that voted to defund the police. Can somebody please explain to me why the omission? Why were the words of the Republican bill changed to omit all these other brave men and women who are protecting people all across this country, and the Capitol Police who protect us every single day? And by the way, the gentleman who just spoke was among those who voted not to give a Congressional Gold Medal to the Capitol Police. Thank goodness 400 members, Democrats and Republicans, disagreed with him. I reserve my time.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Florida.
The gentleman from Florida is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the gentlewoman yielding. Mr. Speaker, as we move into National Police Memorial Week, I want to rise in support of 2 bills that will help make our officers safer out on the street. The first is H.R. 2494, the commonly called the Police Act, which simply states that an illegal alien that assaults a police officer will be deported. Not might be, will be. Currently, the situation is they can be arrested for assaulting, and in 2021 we had 43,000 law enforcement officers assaulted. I'm sure many of those were by illegal aliens, and those numbers are just going to go up. They can be arrested, placed in a 287G jail facility where they're held for ICE, convicted of the crime of assault, but they still may not be deported. They have to go through a long legal analysis after their conviction to ensure that they're deported out of this country. H.R. 2494, the Police Act, simply says, if you assault one of our officers, we're kicking you out of this country. I can't imagine why anyone across the aisle would vote against that. The other bill, H.R. 3091, the Federal Law Enforcement Service Weapon Purchase Act. Mr. Speaker, we have several of our federal law enforcement agencies right now who are about to go through rearming their agencies to the tune of about 20,000 weapons. They're going to destroy these weapons if officers are not allowed to purchase their service weapon as it's being retired or as the officer may retire. This bill simply says that we're going to take these officers that are retiring, and if they want to purchase their service weapon, they will be allowed to. Currently, they're precluded from doing that. And all of these weapons are going to be destroyed. About $8 million worth. We're just going to destroy, and the taxpayers are going to have to buy more. So this is, as a 40-year law enforcement officer, I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, your sidearm is not just any old sidearm. There's a special relationship, I think, that you develop, and we need to allow these officers to purchase their firearms. And with that, I yield back. And
Gentleman yields back. The gentlewoman from Minnesota reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
May I reserve my time, Mr. Speaker?
The gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'm prepared to close.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from PolitiFact entitled "The List of Republicans Open to Defunding the FBI Keeps Growing."
Without objection.
And Mr. Speaker, I just want to say I'm concerned because on one hand my Republican colleagues say they support the police. On the other hand, their own members are calling on Congress to defund federal law enforcement. They want to defund the FBI. They want to defund ATF. They want to defund DOJ. I guess it just shows that Republicans only support some of the police. In fact, there's a member on the other side of the aisle who's selling defund the FBI T-shirts on her webpage. Mr. Speaker, I have asked over and over and over again why the Republican bill was changed to exclude a whole bunch of law enforcement officers on the federal level, including the Capitol Police. And as those who are watching this debate saw, every time I would want to yield to get an answer, there was silence. Nobody can explain, why this happened. Nobody will help us solve this mystery as to why they decided to not honor a whole bunch of our brave men and women who protect us in so many ways all across this country. I mean, it is baffling to me that this is where we are. And I began by telling a story. And let me end with telling a story. Mr. Speaker, I was here on January 6th. I was in the Speaker's chair on January 6th. I was the last person off the House floor. I saw everybody who was here in this chamber, including some of my colleagues on the Republican side, cowering behind Capitol Police officers because they were afraid for their life. It was a terrible, terrible day. And luckily, nobody here was injured. None of us, none of the members of Congress or our staff. The Capitol Police protected us that day. I mean, we owe them our lives. And today, as we honor our national police, my Republican friends thought it was appropriate to remove them from the list of people being honored. I find that disgraceful. I can't even imagine what the thinking was to make that kind of decision. It's so insulting and so offensive to the people who protect us that day and protect us each and every day. I mean, so I don't understand that. I can't get a response from it, but we know what was going on here. We know that they removed the Capitol Police and they removed some of these federal law enforcement agencies because they were afraid they were going to lose votes on their side, that some of their members would not vote to honor all of our law enforcement officials. I mean, let that sink in for a minute. This should have been a day of unity. This should have been a truly bipartisan endeavor to get us legislation to the floor that everybody could support, that we could all say thank you to our police. But no, it's politicized. And they get up here and they start quoting people on defund the police, but they don't tell anybody that they voted to defund the police 2 weeks ago. It's public record. Every one of them did. Every one of them did, including the gentleman who was down here screaming. He gets on the floor all the time and talks about the need that we have to better protect our border, and yet the people who are charged with protecting our border were removed from the list of people we were honoring. This is not right. By any measure, it is not right. And I am so disappointed that my Republican friends have decided to politicize this. So I urge my colleagues to vote no on the previous question so we can protect Social Security and Medicare. And I urge them to vote no on this rule. This is beneath this institution. This is not honoring our police. This is politicizing our police. This is saying to some of our police, we don't value your service. This is saying to the Capitol Police that we don't value your service. How dare anybody on the other side suggest that? How dare you bring a bill to the floor that does just that? This is sickening. Mr. Speaker, with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Massachusetts yields back, and the gentlewoman from Minnesota is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I am honored to be here today to support this rule and this legislation to make sure that we honor our law enforcement and that we are moving forward. This is a completely different agenda from the legislation that my Democrat colleagues were advancing at this time in the 117th Congress, so last year. By this time, 2 years ago, Democrats had already passed legislation that would have removed qualified immunity for police officers acting in good faith, And they voted to restrict policing methods that keep officers safe. And they supported investigations into departments that insinuated that police officers are racist and white supremacist. Today, House Republicans are changing the narrative and standing up for law and order and for those who enforce it. If my Democrat colleagues don't think this matters, then they clearly are still not listening to what the law enforcement community needs. Today, they have the opportunity to show their support for law enforcement. The defund police movement has been disastrous in the areas that have tried it, emboldening criminals. Cities like Minneapolis and San Francisco have seen dramatic increases in crime, and residents and businesses alike are fleeing in droves. Crime is skyrocketing throughout the country, and the lack of respect for law enforcement in this country also means fewer people are willing to enter the profession. This needs to change, and we in Congress can pass legislation like the bills today that support our police officers and show them their sacrifices and services are appreciated. It is time for leaders to stand up for law enforcement and stop the anti-police rhetoric. I ask my colleagues on the other side to join with us in supporting and honoring law enforcement by voting for this rule today and supporting the legislation. I support the underlying legislation, and I urge all members to do so. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time, and I move the previous question on the resolution.
The gentlewoman yields back. The question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those in favor of a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question are postponed. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess subject to the call of the chair. House will be in order. The chair lays before the House a message.
Jordan staff, which is not the same as the judiciary staff. We just addressed it.
I am returning herewith without my approval House Joint Resolution 39, a resolution that would disapprove the Department of Commerce's rule titled Procedures Covering Suspension of Liquidation, Duties and Estimated Duties in accord with Presidential Proclamation 10414. For too long, because of unfair trade practices and underinvestment in domestic manufacturing, the United States has been reliant on China for solar energy products. From day one, my administration has bet on America to create a strong solar supply chain. We have worked to create good-paying jobs and build manufacturing facilities in the United States for solar energy and other important global industries. And our plan is working. Thanks to my Investing in America agenda, 51 and expanded solar equipment manufacturing plants have been announced since I took office. Since the passage of Public Law 117-169, commonly referred to as the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, last August, private companies have announced commitments to build enough solar panel manufacturing capacity to power nearly 6 million homes. America is now on track to increase domestic solar panel manufacturing capacity eightfold by the end of the first term, but that production will not come online overnight. The Department of Commerce's rule supports American businesses and workers in the solar industry and helps provide sufficient, clean, and reliable electricity to American families, while continuing to hold our trading partners accountable. The rule implements a temporary 24-month bridge to make sure that when these factories are operational, we have thriving solar installation industry ready to deploy American-made solar products to homes, businesses, and communities across the nation. Given the progress we are making on American solar, I do not intend to extend the tariff suspension at the conclusion of the 2-year period in June 2024. Passage of this resolution bets against American innovation It would undermine these efforts and create deep uncertainty for American businesses and workers in the solar industry. Therefore, I am vetoing this resolution. Signed, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., the White House, May 16, 2023.
The objections of the President will be spread at large upon the Journal, and the veto message and the joint resolution will be printed as a House document. For what purpose does the gentleman from Tennessee seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further consideration of the veto message and the joint resolution, House Joint Resolution 39, be postponed until the legislative day of May the 24th, 2023.
Without objection, so ordered. Proceedings will resume on questions previously postponed. Votes will be taken in the following order. Order the previous question on the House Resolution 398 and adoption of the House Resolution 398 if ordered. The first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the remaining electronic votes will be conducted as 5-minute votes. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote of the order of the previous question on the House Resolution 398, on which the nays and the yeas are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Calendar Number 19, House Resolution 398, resolution providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 2494, to make the assault of a law enforcement officer a deportable offense and for other purposes, providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 3091, to allow federal law enforcement officers to purchase retired service weapons and for other purposes, and providing for consideration of the concurrent resolution, House Concurrent Resolution 40, expressing support for local law enforcement officers, and condemning efforts to defund or dismantle local law enforcement agencies.
The question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote. Against vote. The yeas are 220. The nays are 209. On the previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chairs, the ayes have it.
Speaker,
what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts?
I ask for a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 222, the nays are 203. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will be in order. For what purpose, gentlewoman from New Mexico, seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Yesterday, an 18-year-old carrying an assault-type weapon shattered the peace in a quiet residential neighborhood in Farmington, New Mexico. 3 beautiful souls lost their lives and many more were wounded and numerous others traumatized. I praise the heroes who drove to danger to stop the violence. I am ever grateful for the coordination between local, state, county, and federal law enforcement. I pray for the quick recovery of the wounded and for the families of those we lost. I imagine a world where mothers and fathers drop off their children at school without fear. A world where families can gather to worship or simply be at peace in their neighborhood. Sadly, that peace is shattered by gun violence somewhere in America every single day. Every day, we are reminded that we don't yet live in a peaceful country, and yesterday was no exception. So many of us standing and listening and praying today are committed to banning assault weapons, especially for an 18-year-old. We are committed to bringing peace to our communities. Now I invite all members of the United States House of Representatives to join me in a moment of silence, a moment of gratitude to our law enforcement, and in a moment of prayer to honor the lives of those we tragically lost yesterday. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Yields back. Well clear. Okay. House will be in order. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I rise to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows. House Resolution 114. Resolved that pursuant to Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2 of the Constitution of the United States, Representative George Santos be, and he hereby is, expelled from the House of Representatives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Under Rule 9, a resolution offered from the floor by the member other than the majority leader or the minority leader as a question of privilege of the House has immediate precedent only at a time designated by the chair within 2 legislative days after the resolution is properly noticed. Pending that decision, the form of the resolution noticed by the gentleman from California will appear in the record at this point. The chair will not, at this point, determine whether the resolution constitutes a question of privilege. That determination will be made at the time designated by the consideration of the resolution. For what purpose, gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
For a unanimous consent request, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I ask
The gentleman will state his request.
I ask unanimous consent to remove my name as a co-sponsor of H.R. 901.
The gentleman's request is granted.
Thank you.
Chair will now entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. Mr. Thompson, does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in recognition of John A. Freeman, a 50-year member of the Tri-Town Volunteer Fire Department in West Ulysses, Pennsylvania. Tri-Town Volunteer Fire Department number 47 is an all-volunteer fire and ambulance department serving Ulysses Borough and the Potter County townships of Allegheny, Bingham, Hector, and Ulysses. Since 1972, John has volunteered with Tri-Town, where he quickly established himself as an important and reliable member of the company. As a truck captain and driver, John has served as an integral part of the countless emergency responses throughout north central Pennsylvania. As a longtime firefighter and EMS volunteer, I understand the courage, commitment, and determination it takes to serve your community as a first responder. First responders miss many important moments with their loved ones to answer the call whenever and wherever it occurs. Their service is even more critical in rural areas like Potter County, where volunteer numbers are falling and placing a strain on those who do answer the call. For this reason, I commend John A. Freeman on his 50 years of service to the Tri-Town Volunteer Fire Company and for the example he sets to volunteers in Potter County and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Ohio seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, 43 years ago, the trailblazing Ohioan, friend, founder of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congressman Lou Stokes, stood on this very floor and entered into the records an extraordinary speech. It was a speech he had heard by a young, accomplished, talented Black American, a lawyer, Patricia Russell McLeod, entitled, "If Not You, Who? If Not Now, When?" It was a speech with themes that still very much are relevant today. It's a theme that's relevant today about what does it mean to be Black in America and the struggles to carve out in a place of society. I am pleased to say that Patricia Russell McLeod now lives in my 3rd congressional district and is one of my constituents, mentor, and friend. I cannot commend enough that my colleagues refer to the congressional record May 14, 1980, and seek out her wise and inspirational words. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life of my friend, Susan Lott Clark of Waycross, Georgia. Susan was born in May of 1925 in Waycross, Georgia. She graduated from Waycross High School, then went on to Wesleyan College, Emory University, and the University of Georgia. She married Dr. William Clark, Jr., an ophthalmologist, and then settled back down into her hometown in 1958. Susan stayed active in the local Methodist Church. She taught Sunday school there and even co-authored a book called The History of the First United Methodist Church. As well as her church activities, Susan founded the Okefenokee Heritage Center and the Southern Forest World Environmental Center. In 2008, Susan went on to spearhead the movement to add Lott Cemetery of Waycross to the National Register of Historic Places. At 92, Susan went on to publish her autobiography, Let's Talk About Me. which gives an illuminating look back on her life. She was a recipient of many awards during her life, including the Waycross Woman of the Year Award, the Wesleyan College Alumni Award for Distinguished Achievements, and Wise Owl Award for Leadership in Georgia Forestry. My thoughts and prayers are with the whole Clark family during this most difficult time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Ohio seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to extend and revise my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to congratulate Ohio's 13th District Champions of the Week, the founding mothers of the Canton Domestic Violence Project, Helen Sirios, Nancy Boylan, and the late Gertrude Kennedy. These three courageous women founded the Domestic Violence Project in 1978 when domestic violence was often met with silence, fear, and ignorance, yet they persevered. It was their pioneering acts of empathy, strength, and resilience that would change countless lives forever. After 45 years, the Domestic Violence Project has provided shelter to thousands of battered women and children in Stark County, becoming one of the largest shelters in Ohio. The Domestic Violence Project provides a lifeline to survivors, a place where they can feel empowered, find healing, and gain the tools necessary to break free from the cycle of abuse. These courageous women and the courageous service of Helen, Nancy, and Gertrude regularly force them to risk their own safety to help women of all backgrounds escape from abusive homes, and their unrelenting dedication deserves recognition. The countless lives that have been saved and the increased safety can be traced back to the selflessness of Nancy, Helen, and Gertrude, who worked so tirelessly so that no one in Ohio's 13th district felt unsafe in their own home. We honor their legacy, and together we will continue to build a future where everyone feels safe, valued, and empowered. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
And to advise or remain my remarks as needed.
Without objection, sir, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, this National Police Week, I rise today in gratitude for those who protect our homes and families, bring justice to the evildoer, and comfort to their countrymen in distress. These dedicated men and women who put their lives on the line as they put on their uniforms every day often do not receive the support that they deserve. From corporate media to Hollywood and even to this Congress, American police officers frequently receive abuse instead of thanks and blame where they deserve applause. But hardworking, law-abiding citizens and American families know better. They know the importance of fighting crime and protecting the innocent, and they know the cost. In 2022, 11 Georgia police officers died in the line of duty. So far in 2023, we lost another. Last week, I had the honor of presenting a wreath at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial here in Washington, D.C., dedicated to those courageous men and women, the heroic peace officers of Georgia and all across America. May their service and sacrifice never be forgotten, and may Americans always proudly back the blue. Semper Fidelis.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Virginia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to extend and revise my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to celebrate Infrastructure Week and highlight the incredible projects made possible in Virginia by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The IIJA, or Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, is a once-in-a-generation investment to rebuild America's crumbling infrastructure, improve public safety and climate resilience, accelerate the deployment of clean energy technologies, and reconnect historically marginalized and disenfranchised communities. Since the IIJA was passed, $4.7 billion in federal funding is headed to the Commonwealth of Virginia for 192 specific projects. That includes $3.8 billion for transportation infrastructure like our public transit, roads, rails, ports, airports, and bridges like the historic Mayo Bridge in my district in Richmond, and approximately $290 million for clean water initiatives in the Commonwealth. Thanks to IIJA, more than 345,000 households across the Commonwealth are now receiving affordable high-speed internet. And this is just the beginning. As we continue to work to implement the provisions from the bipartisan infrastructure law, Virginians can expect to see billions more in federal funding. And thanks to the leadership of the Biden-Harris administration,
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
we aren't just celebrating Infrastructure Week, but Infrastructure Decade. Thank you, and I yield back.
Okay. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, sir, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to discuss the Colorectal Cancer Payment Fairness Act. It is a bill I reintroduced today to encourage more colorectal cancer screenings. And everyone knows that cancer screenings save lives. My bill provides Medicare beneficiaries with complete coverage for cancer treatments performed during routine screenings by the end of this year. Right now, screenings are covered, but treatments are not. So patients can wake up after the procedure with a surprise medical bill of upwards of $2,000. Colorectal cancer is one of the deadliest cancers that we have, but it is one of the highest survival rates if detected and treated early. Too many Americans put off routine cancer screenings because they feel fine and worry about coverage. But that can be a life-threatening decision. The issue is very personal to me. I lost my father, the Honorable and respected Congressman Donald Payne Sr., to colorectal cancer in 2012. I don't want other families to lose their fathers and loved ones because they did not get screened regularly. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition?
Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, America should always pay its bills, and we must do everything under the sun to avoid a default. Failure to do so would trigger massive job loss, a recession, and rising costs. Mr. Speaker, our national debt is over $31 trillion, and we must look at ways working together, Democrats and Republicans, to get this under control. I encourage the President and congressional leaders to put the American people first. We must depoliticize debt ceiling negotiations. Mr. Speaker, Eastern North Carolinians elected me to fight for higher paying jobs, policies that will boost our economy, and to end high prices. A default goes against all of this, and it would only make life harder for my constituents. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Minnesota seek recognition?
Ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of small businesses and to celebrate my friend Abdurrahman Kahin, the owner of Afro Deli in my district, who was named Small Business Person of the Year by the Biden administration. My district was also chosen as one of the stops for CPA's national tour in honor of Small Business Week. It was great to welcome Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff and Small Business Administrator Isabel Guzman to discuss economic development for new Americans and underserved communities at Adama Restaurant and Awash Bakery in my district. We also discussed the critical role community development financial institutions play in helping small businesses. Also in that week, we were able to host PIPOC women small business owners for a roundtable at Wildflower Coffee in Minneapolis. The 5th District is full of thriving small businesses, many owned by immigrants and people of color, and we will continue to support them to make sure they have the resources they need to thrive in the future. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Oregon seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize National Police Week. Every day, from Tiger to Turner, McMinnville to Monmouth, tens of thousands of courageous Oregonians answer the call to protect and serve. Law enforcement officers routinely step into harm's way to defend community members in crisis and to protect the rule of law. For that, we owe them a debt of gratitude. But gratitude alone is not enough. As the daughter of a police officer, I know what it's like to worry about whether your loved one will return home safely, and I grieve for the families of those who don't. In their honor, I'm committed to supporting police officers in Oregon and across our nation with the resources, funds, training, and care they need. We also need to do more to support our officers once they exit the force, from increasing mental health services to expanding disability benefits. Those who dedicate their lives to public safety deserve nothing less. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman and my colleague from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, last Sunday, May 14th, marked the one-year anniversary of the horrific mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. America, we can only move forward if we acknowledge what is killing us in droves: white supremacist extremism. Congress needs to lead and say clearly to the country that white supremacy is an existential threat. Last year, a man radicalized by the Great Replacement theory drove 2 hours to a black neighborhood in Buffalo with an assault rifle and opened fire. 10 lives were lost, and we are still collectively mourning. We are also mourning the lives of those lost in other racist attacks, including in Allen, Texas, at the hands of a neo-Nazi extremist. These once fringe ideologies are now being openly promoted by too many in the Republican Party, which is seeking to criminalize migrants, ban Black history curricula, take away food from children and health care from the
gentleman's
poor,
time has expired.
and fan the flames of a culture war. It has to stop. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The chair lays before the House a message.
To the Congress of the United States, Section 202D of the National Emergencies Act, 50 United States Code, 1622D, provides for the automatic termination of a national emergency unless, within 90 days prior to the anniversary date of its declaration, the President publishes in the Federal Register and transmits to the Congress a notice stating that the emergency is to continue in effect beyond the anniversary date. In accordance with this provision, I have sent to the Federal Register for publication the enclosed notice stating that the national emergency with respect to the stabilization of Iraq declared in Executive Order 13303 of May 22, 2003, as modified in scope and relied upon for additional steps taken in Executive Order 13290 of March 20, 2003, Executive Order 13315 of August 28, 2003, Executive Order 13350 of July 29, 2004, Executive Order 13364 of November 29, 2004, Executive Order 13438 of July 17, 2007, and Executive Order 13668 of March 27, 2014. It is to continue in effect beyond May 22, 2023. Obstacles to the orderly reconstruction of Iraq, the restoration and maintenance of peace and security in the country, and the development of political, administrative, and economic institutions in Iraq continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. Therefore, I have determined that it is necessary to continue the national emergency declared in Executive Order 13303 with respect to the stabilization of Iraq. Signed sincerely, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., The White House, May 16, 2023.
Referred to the Committee on Foreign Affairs and ordered printed. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning for morning hour debate.